Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing. And today we'll continue the fascinating story of the traditional Chinese opera, Kunqu opera. In this program, we'll hear about two of the Qing dynasty's greatest playwrights who are responsible for two masterpieces of Kunqu opera. There are Hongsheng and Kong Shangren, who wrote respectively The Palace of Eternal Life and The Peach Blossom Fan. These two classics of the Kunqu opera repertoire would dominate the Kunqu stage for many years. Hongsheng came from a prominent family in Hangzhou. From a very young age, he received a Confucian education. By the time he was 15 years old, he had already made quite a name for himself with his poems and songs. Hongsheng spent 10 years writing The Palace of Eternal Life, which brought him not only fame, but also misfortune.
Hongsheng and Kong Shangren are known as two of China's greatest playwrights, one based in the south, the other in the north. In the space of 10 years, they produced two highly important and influential operas, The Palace of Eternal Life and Peach Blossom Fan, works that stunned drama circles of the time. These two Kunqu operas dominated the Kunqu stage for a very long time, and today they're often referred to as two shining pearls in the treasure house of Chinese literature. Hongsheng came from a prominent family in the Qiantang area. At a very young age, he received an authentic Confucian education, and by the time he was just 15 years old, he'd made quite a name for himself with his poems and songs. But in officialdom, he was much less successful. By the time he wrote the Kunqu opera The Palace of Eternal Life, he was already 43 years old, and although he'd been a student of the Imperial Academy for 20 years, he had never been appointed to a government post. Hongsheng spent 10 years writing The Palace of Eternal Life, and it doubtless brought him some comfort. As soon as he finished the script, he summoned performers to sing it in his home, and he invited relatives and friends to watch. However, at the time, Empress Tong had just died and the country was in a period of national mourning. This meant that all entertainment activities had been temporarily banned. When someone reported Hongsheng's performance to the authorities, he was placed in prison, and the 6 people who had watched the performance were also punished. One commentator later wrote, "It's a pity that the performance of The Palace of Eternal Life ruined Hongsheng's future in officialdom forever." Hongsheng's 50-episode drama The Palace of Eternal Life tells the sad story of Tang Emperor Xuanzong and his favorite concubine Yang Yuhuan, and the story seems simple enough. Upon the outbreak of rebellion, the emperor flees the capital and his favorite concubine is killed. However, in telling the story, the playwright mingles a love story with a real historical event, and through it, expresses the sorrow felt by the people due to the sufferings of the nation. The plot of the drama set well with the sentiments of the Han people of the era, who were mourning the loss of the Ming dynasty. The Ming dynasty had been replaced by the Qing dynasty, and it had been established by the Manchu ethnic people from the northeast. The Palace of Eternal Life was staged in Beijing by the Suzhou Kunqu Opera Troupe in 2004. Gu Duhuang, the chief director of the production, said he wished to see his production of The Palace of Eternal Life adhere strictly to Hong Sheng's original script. And in the end, he changed only one word in the script.
因为这个长生殿不管从文学上、从戏剧性上、从音乐上、从舞台美术上、从排场上，历来就是一个昆曲班子里最有号召力的剧目。这个剧团能演长生殿，意味着它有实力。
The era in which Tang Xianzu wrote The Peony Pavilion was different from the time when Hong Sheng was living and writing The Palace of Eternal Youth. By his time, a large number of tunes had been composed especially for Kunqu opera, and there were now professional Kunqu opera troupes. Moreover, Kunqu opera had become considerably more sophisticated.
有一次在台湾开会的时候，曾永义先生说。 无与伦比的长生殿，他说长生殿是最好的，反映国家大事，他有阳刚之美的一个人啊，整个的就是本子中间无瑕可击，结构音律都非常好啊，他是最好的。白先勇先生也在，他就提出异议来了，他说我觉得《牡丹亭》更好，是吧？因为它更动人。我说就它的文学意象。 就它的感人程度和思想深度来说，那《牡丹亭》是最好的；而就戏论戏，就结构论戏，就戏的本质特征、格律原则来说，长生殿是最好的。
Hong Sheng was born in Hangzhou, a city south of the Yangtze River where music and opera were highly popular. However, eventually he moved to Beijing and lived there for many years, and as a result, he was familiar with both the refined language of the Central Plain and the local dialects of central South China. Some historical accounts state that Hong Sheng discussed the rules of poetry with others and used simple language when writing poetry. Certainly, it is true that poetic dramas written in later times tend to contain a greater number of elegant phrasing and classical allusions. But some playwrights, Hong Sheng included, pointed out that a mood of grand elegance could be expressed using simpler, more commonly used words.
洪生是个大文豪，因为长生殿这个戏啦，就是最早它就是源于白居易的《长恨歌》。那么《长恨歌》写这个唐明皇想念杨贵妃呢，用一句话，一个意象，就夜雨闻铃长断声。但到了洪生那儿呢，写了一出戏。这出戏中他怎么写夜雨闻铃长断声呢？他说：淅淅沥沥，一片凄凉心暗惊，遥听隔山隔水。
The refined and elegant language used in The Palace of Eternal Life is unmatched in later drama scripts. In fact, even today, people who know little or nothing about Kunqu opera admire the elegance with which sadness is expressed in this drama. It seems incredible to many that such a refined and elegant libretto could have once been on the lips of almost everyone. The Palace of Eternal Life was written nearly 50 years after the death of a well-known drama critic, Qi Biaojia. But when he was still alive, he made a most apt remark. He said, "It is easy to make people laugh in a drama, but it is very difficult to make them cry." When The Peach Blossom Fan 1699 was formally staged in Beijing's Poly Theatre in 2006, the average age of the performers was just 18. They were the only young members to become a part of the Jiangsu Provincial Kunqu Opera Troupe in 20 years. But the young performers attracted a good number of younger theatregoers.
我很想知道，比方今天的初中生、高中生，他们在看昆曲是什么感受？他们可能有点像在看外国戏一样，他们可能非常好奇，这里头的这种辛酸、这种诙谐，这种巧妙，我不知道他们能不能心领神会。大学生惊讶的可能是它的美、它的雅。问题是，今天的年轻人，他在恋爱中，他在青春期，在看《桃花扇》、在看《西厢记》的时候，他在内容上，他有没有可以分享的东西
？The Peach Blossom Fan may be considered a gem of Chinese literature, but its content is far divorced from life today. As a love story about a scholar who meets a singing girl on the Qinghai River. The history behind this love story is, in fact, very revealing.
The last moment of true glory in the history of poetic drama in China is one well worth remembering. It occurred in the year 1699 when the drama The Peach Blossom Fan was written. On the surface, The Peach Blossom Fan tells of the love between a scholar and a sing-song girl on the Qinhuai River. But this love story is told in such a way that it really depicts how the 300-year-old Ming Empire was overthrown, exposes those who were responsible for its fall, explains the cause of its demise, and tells when and where it met its end. One night in the year 1699, Emperor Kangxi ordered that the script of a newly completed poetic drama be immediately sent to the palace. The following year, its author was dismissed from his official post because he was involved in a certain unsettled case. The author's name was Kunqu, and he was a playwright from North China who was as famous as Hong Shang. But when it came to officialdom, Kunqu was much luckier than Hong Shang, perhaps because he was a 64th generation descendant of Confucius. When the emperor stopped in Shandong province on his tour to areas south of the Yangtze in 1686, he summoned Kunqu to deliver a lecture on the Analects of Confucius. He obviously fulfilled the task to the emperor's liking, as he was soon appointed a member of the Imperial Academy and began life at the imperial court. 1 year later, Kunqu was placed in charge of a project to dredge the Yellow River estuary, and as a result, he met a number of officials of the former Ming imperial court who had rejected appointments offered by the newly founded Qing dynasty. Kunqu made friends with many of them and learned from them a great deal about the history of the former dynasty. In his official capacity, he travelled to many places, and later he would use some of the information he gleaned in his travels in his poetic drama The Peach Blossom Fan. It was after Kunqu returned to Beijing that he began to work on the Peach Blossom Fan, using historical facts he had collected while travelling along the Qinhuai River, and it took him 20 years to complete the work. He approached his writing of the work in such a way that he left to later generations a vivid picture of people who lived in the southern Ming dynasty. The Jiangsu Provincial Kunqu Opera Troupe cut the duration of a single performance of the Peach Blossom Fan down to 3 hours and applied modern stage techniques to the classic work. The director of the production was Tian Qinxin from the Chinese State Opera.
给我演，给我说，来。
就是明朝末年南京进士。
就是明朝末年南京进士。这个桃花扇什么意思呢？哎呀，我告诉你啊，你那个就是把那个就是俩字说出来啊。
就是明朝末年南京进士，经离合之情，写新房之干。
桃花扇，演这个侯方域、李香君的事儿，是一生一代为主，但是不是才子佳人谈恋爱那种戏。
你处处是在看侯方域和李香君的故事，是他们两个的情感的纠葛。可是你随时感觉到的是南明历史在发展，是南明历史为什么朝这个方向发展，南明为什么走向了灭亡。
The Peach Blossom Fan is quite different from the poetic dramas written before it. Through the love story of Hou Fangyu and Li Xiangjun, the drama depicts the process of the rise and fall of the Ming Dynasty. For us today, it probably seems incredible that such a vast topic could be expounded upon in the form of a theatrical production.
Due to many factors, historical and political considerations among them, there are no records about performances of the Peach Blossom Fan, and sadly, only the music score for 3 highlights from the work have made it to the present day. In the early 1990s, Xue Xiaomei, an actress with the Jiangsu Provincial Kunqu opera troupe, sorted through all the extant scores of the Peach Blossom Fan with her husband. And it was due to this effort, the love story of Hou Fangyu and Li Xiangjun was presented on the modern stage. The result led to the presentation of Peach Blossom Fan 1699. Tian Qinxin hopes that his 3-hour version of the classic work will do justice to the 300-year rule of the Ming Dynasty and the 300-year history of Kunqu opera from 1699 to the present day.
我自己排练的时候，我很向往，就是我看到了600年前属于中国人的一种生活方式。他很喜欢这个李香君，他就在秦淮河上，两个人就船头碰船头，两人就见面了。见面以后，这个男人还很一览无余地看这个女孩，看的时候还很那个春情荡漾，然后直接张嘴就，我叫侯方域，直接说。
相声很方圆，虚境飘零，归家丰盛。虽是客况不堪，却也春情难安。相声但有善爱一笔，子女相君有为定命，是否？
然后人这女孩，人家不太好意思，但是看着扇子，人也就伸手接了。我就是接了，我就代表对你还有好感啊。所以，我每次看到这儿，我就非常感动。
In order to enable the young performers to depict the ancient charm of Kunqu opera, Tian Qinxin engaged as consultants several veteran performers who had retired from the Jiangsu Provincial Kunqu opera troupe. But even with their help, it proved difficult to condense such a lengthy opera into just 3 hours.
上次这个导演那个田沁鑫来，我们喝茶就谈，他就征求我的建议。我说不问嘛，他说你看当时我导演突出什么东西，突出什么东西？我说首先要中有原著，要把原著搬上舞台。中有原著很长，要演2、3天，你这个1天晚上演完，你必然要进行压缩。那么因此你要抓到一个核心思想，他说什么？借离合之情，写兴亡之叹，谈什么？ 明朝最后完了。完了之后，这个南明小朝廷这一批人，这一批文人、皇帝、妓女都在这个南京，在这个国家灭亡的时候来一番表演，各种人有各种人表演。
是人，是事，有凭有据，惹得二是哭一回，笑一回，怒一回，骂一回。换作宾客，怎晓得老夫也是戏中之人？倒又为了公子们早已登场，列位请看，请看。花样一生，花样一生，那么狂的公天台不讲，好报你我的命，前世难报，切不忘了大明一统江山。寡人同父皇帝在此，大胆的臣，你敢作乱不成？
开船一去，远方不等我相君言礼。
上阵不利，上阵不利，守城不利，守城不利，向战不利，向战不利，团结不利，团结不利。自进。
In the latter part of his life, Kung Shangren was poor, but he was relatively carefree. But his importance lies in the way he passed down to us the history of the Southern Ming dynasty, something worth examining today. The Peach Blossom fan depicts many famous figures in Chinese history, people who in their lifetimes had control over the fate of the country. But in his great work, the character Kung Shangren devotes his greatest attention to is a simple sing-song girl on the Qinhuai River. During a time of great national crisis, this sing-song girl reveals her passionate loyalty to her country, outshining by far seemingly more important people. Out of the many images of women presented in Chinese works of literature and art, that of Li Xiangjun is one of the most admired.
恳求你老人家拜上那阮大胡子，就说侯公子不受他的贿赂，李将军不领他的情。
Toward the end of the Ming dynasty, a number of playwrights in Suzhou had begun to write dramas about the reality of contemporary life, and later generations came to know these writers as the Suzhou School. Among their best works are A Handful of Snow, Winning the Heart of a Prostitute, and 15 Strings of Copper Coins. Specialists in modern drama believe that the work of the Suzhou School playwrights took Kunqu opera to new heights in the early years of the Qing dynasty, and that they inspired Kung Shangren to write The Peach Blossom Fan. These earlier writers of poetic dramas used the poetic language of the Tang and Song dynasties, assimilated the plot features of Zaju opera of the Yuan dynasty, and imbued in their works the passionate spirit of the era in which they lived.
During the reign of Emperor Qianlong, dramatists were summoned to court, where they were commanded to work collectively. However, most of their output never made its way onto the stage. The death of good scripts made it seem like the days of great poetic dramas were numbered. Under such a situation, what would become of Kunqu opera in the 300 years that followed? Please tune in for our next episode, and thank you for staying with us on today's New Frontiers. I'm Ji Xiaojun from CCTV International. See you next time.